course, you do have a King Slayer on Aurora tipping King Julian. King Jungles.
And a fight already. Jabs copying a Stormhammer will be able to double jump away. No big deal. And King Jungles did indeed get tipped by the King Slayer.
This King Slayer, I thought he was 32 years old and a gentleman. Apparently not, mate.
You must have
He's a little bit aggressive today.
Clever.
No, I really don't. I just have I have nothing else. It's either I make fun of it or I call it stupid. You know, so I'm making fun of it. You know.
No. I'm pointing out the fact that you've switched around 23 and 32. It was very clever of you, John.
It took you a day.
No, it didn't, Jonathan. It took me a day to decide to compliment you on your. I don't know what to call it. I guess something. Whatever, John. You got a compliment. Heroic. Trying to go for a fight. It looks like down at bottom lane. It's not really. Schofield will be able to back his way out. Still going to be a 2-for-2 trade on the boundary, so a nice even start between both sides. And as usual, John, we start with the mid lane where you are going to see Analog against Lorinov. So the Snapfire versus the Puck matchup. How's this one going to go?
This one is... It's pretty even. You know, Puck is a slippery hero. It can be a little bit hard to catch out. The Lorinov does have much more burst potential, especially if he does get like a 1-1-1 build into maybe maxing out Scatterblast. That is one way to run down Analog. I'm interested in seeing if Lorinov will just go for old school Snapfire in that case. It's not going to be the easiest of times for Analog. There's some good reach here for Lorinov. At the least, Analog's not having to contend with like the full bore, but I feel like you're going to be able to dodge it out as a Puck anyway, a little bit telegraphed. Rune Control is going to be a big part in keeping Analog alive, and, well, you see the little Shredder. Half HP for Analog gone at level 1.
It certainly is. It's quite a hard kind of ability to lane against these days, this Snapfire, this little Shredder. It's very, very annoying for sure. Because we'll have a look at the side lanes as well. I mean, bottom lane, you are looking at it as right now. Schofield going for a creep pool, but is interrupted by Ollie. So loses half the creep wave so far. We'll still be able to pull away 2 creeps from himself, but not really what Schofield wanted.
No, certainly not. And they still managed to make the creeps somewhat converge around this camp. So it's not quite a full pull as well for the side of Heroic and trying to deny. And it just puts it in a little bit of an awkward position. You are seeing just how much output Ollie has. That slow is ridiculous. The damage amp can be quite nice as well once he has some more spells up. The double attack also helps out Ollie in applying some good harass. It's not a smooth lane for Devi. He does have the Firestorm to try to harass out, but again, every time it's a double melee lane walking into the Monkey King. There's a lot of play for Kingslayer to just try to threaten with some Jingu stacks to slowly build in. You're not going to be seeing this Monkey King under any pressure at all until maybe level 4, if you do manage to reach that point in a smooth manner here for Heroic.
What about that top lane? KJ and K1 against Jabs and Q. It seems like it should be a pretty decent time for K1. Jabs is trying to apply pressure on the Pangolier. He's having not too many issues dealing with the refraction charges, of course, of K1. The thing is, I can't really imagine K1 dying here. Like, as long as King, or KJ rather, is around with the Warcry, he should be just fine.
Yeah. Again, you have that little bit of extra with a physical barrier. Jabs, his output is pretty much all physical. So you should just remove the aspect of the burst from Pango here. There's not going to be too much damage coming out from Q early on. It's a relatively safe lane for Hector to farm, and it is reflecting the CS right up there, right next to Lorinov's farm from the mid. It is having a pretty smooth start in comparison to everyone else, at the very least, on his own team. It's a little bit of a rougher start for Heroic elsewhere. But again, this TA is kind of key to your tempo. It's going to be your big damage source. It's going to be that timing into Dragonlance Desolator that really sets a tone. And as long as Hector's the one to hit that timing, everything else on Hero can follow afterwards.
Absolutely. Top lane, they are trying to get aggressive again onto K1. But of course, he does just pop the refraction and walk out of it. Very, very hard with the Warcry to actually get any physical damage off here onto K1 with the Warcry and the refraction charges, that is. Looking back at that mid lane for a second, Analog is having a very rough time. It's about half the CS right now of Lorinov, which, you know, in fairness is somewhat to be expected considering how hard the laning matchup is now against Snapfire mid. But the CS difference, it is pretty massive.
And it is. And there's not much a puck can really do outside of just trying to dodge out of harass. Every single time that little shredder is up, Lorinov with the early Wraith Band just does so much damage in ripping Analog to shreds. He does at least have access to his water runes, so he's going to have a little bit of a top-up, not fully shoved out of the lane, but again, a slower start for that puck. They're chasing here.
Yeah, Schofield will die. Kingslayer able to secure first blood on the MK. And, well, the beautiful thing is, John, because of this facet, he can return right back to the lane within about a second. No problem.
Yeah, and again, this is what we were talking about with the Monkey King core pick. That's exactly what you want to see Aurora play around, not just in laning, but even down the line with initial items up from Kingslayer, just kind of looking for these opportunities, heading back to lane to farm, heading back to the camps, and just kind of play a very nice high tempo coming off from the Monkey King. We'll see if they can maintain. Again, already a nice start for Aurora in terms of the laning phase. Only really Hector coming out on top for Heroic in his own laning matchups. 2k lead already from Aurora very early on. Does set a good tone for that build-up. I think for the side of Heroic, again, it's a matter of just sitting back, trying to soak up some EXP. It's going to be a little bit harder, considering the lane of Schofield. I think this Tusk off to a slower start does heavily impact your play potential on the side of Heroic. You don't have the threat. With a tag team, you don't have the levels to try to get some damage in. You're not going to hit a good timing on that 6, in as much as you'd want it to try to burst. So your tempo is just going to be slowing down. Maybe you can just try to keep those stacks built up. Their triangle is still fairly secure, and they've got a couple of stacks set. Let's see, should just be Hector's priority. Again, the Dragonlance Desert timing is going to be big here for Heroic down the line.
Mid lane, bit of a connection here from KJ. Looks like he's just around to secure the power rune at the 6-minute mark. Just wants to ensure Lorinov does not secure the power rune himself, though it's a matter of whether they actually get lucky here, because he's running down bottom. And he does get it. Shield rune is there for Lorinov. Meanwhile, Kiss is thrown out. Looks like Schofield has been caught out. And they will hand another kill the way of Kingslayer. And a concerning signs for Heroic if you are going to give this many kills away to the POS1 MK. Certainly not something you want to see.
Yeah, the kills and the medium-large camp stacks as well. So the Ancients are scouted out. They get the blockage. They get the vision down as well from Ollie. They're going to be able to contest down the line. Again, for the side of Heroic, there's just not much that you can really do at this point. You don't have the EXP up on your supports to really get effective rotations out just yet. You're not anywhere near Devi being that ultra-durable front line. And you're also not fully set up on Analog to try to counterplay with, say, a Dream Coil setup. You're just kind of stuck playing a passive game for Heroic. Just try to secure some resources. Still, right IDs from Aurora, still keeping track here.
Oh, they absolutely are. Wisdom Rune timing. Oh, nice snowball. Very nice snowball here from Schofield. And now they've locked down Savage. He's going to try for the TP play out, but it gets locked down by the Pit of Malice. Tips out here from KJ. I appreciate the attempt at the Wisdom Rune, but definitely not worth the life of the POS1 Monkey King.
That's a lot of gold to fly the way of Heroic. Again, with all of that activity coming out from Kingslayer, it's a lot of gold to feed back as well. It does take mass rotations out from Heroic. That does drag basically everyone but Hector for the Wisdom Rune. So you are freeing up space on your mid to soak up. You're freeing up a lot of space for Jabs to just have a very free lane up top as well. But the trade-offs are well worth it for Heroic. It helps secure the area. You can still, again, get that EXP scaling you need on these supports to be effective. And allows you to, again, just try to get some stacks up. Good sentry out from Schofield. We'll spot out the... No, not quite. Just right on the line. I don't know if they'll spot that out with that sentry, but at least take care of the block so they can keep up the stacking. Again, the TA is the key. If the TA is farming, everyone else is dying, you're kind of fine. As long as you're not lagging too far behind in terms of EXP.
Power Runes again, a big fight over it. Ollie going to be caught on the Jakiro and really has no way out, though they are going to try and at least trade here with the Llama. The Kiss is doing so much damage from Lorinov. They'll secure a kill. Even Jab's going for a bit of a chase here with Kingslayer, trying to find themselves another target. They won't be so lucky, but definitely a very nice kill here for the side of Aurora. I'll tell you, this is a side of Aurora we haven't really been seeing, I feel like, at Riyadh Masters, right? Like, just this hyper-aggressive side. Usually they play very slow.
Yeah, I like this change. It feels like I was hearing the other casters talk. I think it was Seek and Winter talking about how Jabs has to go away from the Aura sort of build-up. Speaking of Jabs, though,
He's been caught out, Heroic. Not to be outdone, John. They're also a very aggressive team by their own standards. So finding a huge kill onto Jabs now, well, they're not to be outdone.
yeah, I was just gonna say, you know, Jabs, he's going for a very aggressive Pango, of course. Would he earn instead of like some of the Aura buildups we've seen into Guardian Greaves? He wants to take that early activity. Is punished a little bit, and he did manage to scout out stacks and fully commit for the clear. So there's room for Devi now to get that scaling up. And again, for Heroic, their decision to focus all of these fights down bot and on mid, it's buying Hector so much room. This TA is uncontested, number 2 in net worth, considering how much activity you're getting from Aurora. With the TA still up there, that's going to pose some issues. It's going to be looking like a Deso rush first. No, the Dragonlance coming out into the Deso, of course. Dragonlance fully done, some stats to play with for Hector. His tower is under pressure now, but again, he still has a lot of room to farm here. And they don't have the numbers to fully commit just yet safely on the side of Aurora, although they will try for a flank.
They certainly will, mid lane. They're looking at this this Fen and this Underlord. Analog is going to be around to help out as well, as he's going to try for the power rune, but a nice orb away. He read they were going to be around trying to cap that rune spot, and this time around the puck will be able to secure the regeneration rune for himself. My goodness, there's so much emphasis this game on these power runes. So the third power rune where just both teams have 6, or rather 3 players each, just camping the mid lane waiting for these power runes to spawn up.
It feels like it's more on Aurora trying to deny them off from Analog more than anything else. Like Puck with a very good rune would say haste, and it's going to be hard to pin down. Your stuns aren't amazing on Aurora and locking in the Puck, so there has to be a lot of concentrated effort to stop Analog from hitting some big spikes. These runes coming in just gives him some more leeway to play. Hector's still being surrounded, though.
He certainly is, but he's trying to go for a meld strike. This could cost him. He got very aggressive out of nowhere. He K1, and it is indeed going to cost him his life. I mean, he saw Lorenov, and he was the one to run in, not expecting the rest of the team to be there to back him up. And of course, Lorenov, he did not come up to the top lane for fun. He came for the kills, and he got it.
Yeah, they want the kill, and they want the objective. They want to dig into that top jungle, get some forward vision going, stop that farm. They are mass TPing for the defense.
They certainly are. Jabs very far forward already, trying to find KJ. Meanwhile, the backside, Analog moves in with the Dream Call, catching out one. Here comes the rest of the cavalry. Heroic coming right through the Dark Rift. Divine Llama dropping low, but Kingslayer dropping even lower. Kingslayer barely alive for now. In fact, he'll survive. KJ, Devi, and Schofield, the ones to drop as Aurora. They lose nothing.
This is one interaction we didn't talk about in draft, Mike. Q steals Warcry, gives a physical barrier, saves Kingslayer's life. That is something that works against Heroic as well. Just playing against Warcry with a TA on, with a Sven, with a Tusk, it's not going to feel good looking for that burst. And I like the ADs. Again, they didn't want to give up this top tier 1. It is the farming area for Hector. It has provided a lot of the resources out for our TA. So that's all denied off. Aurora come in with the numbers and do manage to get some good punishment. There is still room for Hector in the triangle. Again, outside of those early forays, the Ancients weren't contested. So there is still some flash farm halfway through the Desolator timing now for K1. And once he's got that up, and this TA can start to hit and can start to threaten maybe a pick-off into Roshan. That's the next timing we're going to have to see here from Heroic if they can find the right fight for the side of Aurora. And they've got the full Spirit Vessel up on Jabs. The Battle Fury for Kingslayer is almost set to be done at the very least. Timing's not the quickest, but again, he's been taking early activity on the Monkey King, even going back for the Orb of Corrosion on top of everything else to help with that activity. So he will still be able to keep tempo in comparison to Hector's farming pace. I'm really curious to see what his itemization goes for afterward. The big one for Aurora's own timing, comparable to that Deso timing from Heroic, is going to be the Gleipnir of Lorenov. It does give them that hard hold to finally get the chain stuns onto Analog, simplify those engagements onto the Puck, and just nullify that slipperiness that Analog is utilizing quite nicely in the few engagements he has joined in on.
Oh, absolutely. They're looking at that mid-tier 1 tower again here, Aurora. it seems like they're going to be able to find it, no problems. Eventually. I mean, Heroic, they are grouping up a little bit. You do have KJ moving in on the Sven, but he's the only one around with Analog so far. And Laurenov, he is just taking pot shots at the at that mid tier 1 tower with this little shredder. There's not really much they can do about it. They're just going to have to watch it go down. They'll even force a glyph out. Maybe Analog's going to try for a quick deny play, but that's about all they can ask for.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Doesn't quite find it either. No luck on the rune this time. Amp damage for Lorna.
Divide does at least steal away a Wisdom Rune here, so they do get both Wisdom Runes the way of Heroic, but it does cost the life of Divide.
You have to do something. You know, you have to get these levels up. Have to try to work the map. Again, it's a distraction away from Hector. It allows the TA the safety in her own side. No threats of being stolen. No threats of any sort of forward excursion from the side of Aurora. There's that Deso timing we were looking for Hector. And he is rushing straight into a Chrysalis before a Blinker BKB. So he does really want some early damage, early aggression, try to really utilize that Refractor. Are going for that tier 1 bot. Fortify is there. There's enough time for Aurora to make a play. They do have Wukongs ready and Kingslayer as well. It does look like they are willing to just give it away. This is still good for Heroic, though. With his tier 1 gone, I mean, it turns into nighttime, so Roche just heads up top. Could have had maybe easier access to a daytime Roche. Again, still likely to look for a pick off first before that point. And we'll see if that opportunity presents itself as Aurora. They've been playing pretty smart. Again, applying pressure across the map. They've got good forward runes watching the top jungle. Nothing watching their own side, where Hector is playing now. But they are trying to shrink that map space away from Heroic. Heck, they might even set up for Roshan themselves first as they head into that pit.
Roshan will be open. Aurora start to move in. It's up to Heroic if they want to try and contest, but it's going to be rather difficult, I think. They do have their Beans Gate available if they do want to go for it. But they are not grouped up, and it seems like they're pretty unaware that it's even happening. And ultimately, I don't think it would have mattered. I highly doubt they would have even wanted to contest. It's a pretty big play from Aurora as well, because this is denying the TA the Aegis that she would have liked to go for with that Desolator timing. So a big kind of win here from Aurora, as they will get away with it, no problems. Or even the mid-tier 1 tower, like it's being forced in by Analog, but he's not really able to get it done either. Kingslayer is going to be around to defend.
Yep. Just a nice cheeky little boundless repositions to get to safety in case. There's some backup, a little bit of a smoke movement out from Aurora now as well. You do have that full blink up on jabs. The initiation is a lot easier to achieve now for Aurora, relieving some of that pressure on Q or Ollie to get the lift into Ice Path. See if this smoke can pan into something here.
Oh, Analog could be in a bit of danger. He will get the jaunt away though. Ping's coming out towards the bottom lane where they do see KJ and K1. K1 going to retreat, of course, to the ancient camp on the far right side of the map, but KJ not going to be so lucky. Eventually, Jabs will be able to pick this one up, no problem. In fact, Kingslayer will take care of it. Now
Does it, Mike?
What's that, John?
The Kingslayer kills King Jungles. As is prophesied. As is prophesized. He's done it. This is the entire reason for this name change. What name change? It's a new player.
Analog in danger. He's going to Waning Rift away, but the chase is on from Jabs, and the kisses are flying into Boom.
They're going far.
They are going very far for this kill, but it is not going to work out. Unfortunately.
A little bit optimistic. That's 2 ultimates. Not the longest cooldown, at least on the Rolling Thunder. Maybe a little bit more painful on the kisses being committed. But yeah, you're not minding too much. Again, the network lead of Aurora, despite all of this tempo, is only at 2k. You're lagging behind on Analog and Divide, but again, Hector is still getting all of that room. Crystallis up into a Blink BKB next.
Oh,
this TA is still hitting its spikes.
Been caught out again here by Kingslayer. They'll go for a TP attempt out, and he will make it. Just barely. My goodness. We're quick thinking from Divide. You know, sees the boundless strike, says screw it. I'll try for the TP.
Again, it's the lack of lockdown for Aurora. Straightforward lockdown. That can cause some issues. It also informs them of maybe a forward ward here, so they can get some D wards going on Heroic. Instantly a smoke out now as well. And maybe not the most convincing smoke. They do have the blink ready on Analog to try to get some position in. See if they manage to get some isolation out here.
Schofield's going to have a gander. He is smoked up, but understands he probably cannot approach his own jungle at the moment. There's a counter smoke now from Aurora. They want to go for a fight. They understand how powerful they are. Especially with this Aegis up for the next 2 minutes. They are not worried at all of taking a fight here against Heroic, and they are running right towards the Dire jungle, or rather the Dire triangle, where K1 is currently farming. Lorinov, can he get the Gleipnir off? Not quite. KJ, he's going to break the smoke and cover his carry. K1 still thinking about jumping in, but gets out of it.
Yep. This play is poke, knows how far to push that hero on the TA, which is definitely something you want to see your TA do. Just look for opportunities, poke as much as possible, go back to farm. And you kind of want to push the limits. And he is. A good sacrifice being made by KJ. Just buying that space for your big win condition. Still trying to chase onto Analog, but Kingslayer does go the wrong way. And so,
Yeah, it looks
nah,
fine.
doesn't
He
quite.
Don't have the balance strike anyway. No way to cancel the TP. Well, we do hit a 10-3 scoreline now, 20 minutes into the game, so not too many kills happening this game, but it still is Aurora that have found themselves in the lead. Only by about 1k though. Like, the thing is, K1 has still been free farming the whole time, so although they have been doing some great work on Aurora's end of things, like, you still have this pretty big concerning kind of factor of K1 on this TA, who can pretty much carry the game on his own if he needs to. And right now it is kind of feeling like he might need to, but like I said, he's playing TA, John. It's one of those heroes that can kind of do it himself.
and it can. And conditions are slowly being met. The one thing that you really need on the side of Heroic, though, to achieve that is Roche control into the next Roshan. It's still 3 minutes until we'll see that. Aegis is just set to expire now for Lorinov. So Aurora also not able to get as much as they'd want off of this Aegis outside of just farming. And they even lose some net worth advantage, again, off the back of the Aegis. With the efficiency of Heroic around the map, with the sacrifices they're making only on the supports, you're getting the room to get that build up. Again, Analog's had his blink for a while. The Vailama had the Guardian Greaves in the last engagement, is going into the full pipe, so the Aura play is going to come in. And, you know, mind you, the Vi only has a 1 value point in Atrophy right now. Once you max that out, plus the Guardian Greaves, with the Aura on the Guardian Aura on, with a pipe, and a Warcry. And that burst, again, that Aura is looking for might not be as effective, considering that their net worth lead just isn't growing. They'll try to find something now with a smoke out. Doesn't feel like they can really spot anything out. They do have one good ward, but it's on a low ground position, so it doesn't fully spot out.
Oh, they're still heading towards K1, but pings are there. They know K1's around the area somewhere. K1 not going to be picked off. Heroic still playing very defensively by their tier 2 mid tower. Analog going to be targeted. Rolling Thunder from Jabs will be committed, and he does land the initial stun into the lift up and the Stormhammer of Q. Oh, even the kisses to fly in from Lorinov, just in case. No messing about.
Yeah. They just need these pickoffs. They need to build off this advantage on Aurora. Try to slow down the other farm to compensate for how well Hector is doing. Have some room as well to shove in the top. Fortify forced out early. And that should allow, if they want a full commitment, they should be able to find it now, although no siege creep will make it maybe a little bit slower. A lot of room out for Heroic to farm. Bot. Big timing being met now, though. Hector does have his full BKB up. You can play with confidence now if you're not too careful here.
TP cancelled though. Devi Lama, he's on his own. Devi is going to go in by the tier 2 tower, but they just jump him immediately. So the Schofield Snowball saving just barely. But how does Devi get out of this one? Surely he cannot, although he still survives with the Fiendscape, but no, he does drop. Thing is, Kingslayer's dropped as well. They've lost the POS 1 MK. Not a good sign here for Aurora. They'll lose Ollie to boot. 2 down now. It's K1 able to pick up a double kill. And No, I mean, Savage, he just kind of dropped so darn quickly once he was completely surrounded. Props to Schofield for buying the time and forcing him out of position here on this MK. And
Radiant
again, a pretty big win here for Heroic.
And it is. And you can't underestimate that scaling damage on Firestorm when you're stuck in an area. The TP cancel from Schofield, very smart into that snowball saves, dodging out the ice pad as well. And just making it rough. Like Aurora really forcing out that movement onto the tier 2, makes huge sacrifices, loses 1k off their lead, puts Hector into the #1 position now. Off the back of those kills, Roshan, unfortunately, a longer spawn timer, so they're not going to be able to try to secure that early on, but the full Daedalus for Hector isn't too far off. And once that's up, again, we're seeing that physical burst from Heroic be a massive issue. It almost feels like you're hoping for Q to steal the Warcry every single time, if at all possible. Easier said than done. He did manage to steal Fiend's Gate, at the least here, for Q, so there's some cheeky place you could get done with that, if Heroic aren't set up for it, if Aurora wants to try to utilize it to that extent.
The saddest thing was, like, you saw the highlight of that last fight. Like, it was a Walrus punch into a couple racks from K1 that really just killed off Kingslayer. It's a very concerning sign. Like, even with the BKB up, it just did not make a difference against the TA's output. It's just a Walrus punch into some right clicks. Very concerning here for the MK, that's for sure. So, seems though now Roshan going to be the big priority that Heroic want to try and get. K1 going to get some traps down and get some vision over this Roshan pit, but there is plenty of vision as well from Aurora's end of things. They even saw K1 placing that trap down in the pit. I suppose that is going to be the pretty big objective that we are looking at for both sides now. Thing is, Aurora, if they lose this Roshan, it does really start to feel as though Heroic hit a stride with their own draft and start to take over the game, if they haven't already. Especially K1 with an Aegis up, he's going to be feeling very confident. And just look at the farm of K1. It's got a full Daedalus up, going into the Hurricane Pike and the Swift Link. Like, this TA is massive.
And it's, again, all down to how Heroic worked the map. They forced all of these fights away from the TA lane. Tier 1 top stayed very secured for a long time until that one fight, very forced in for Heroic. After that, he occupies the bot, occupies the triangle, gets all of the stacks, and he's just allowed to play a very free game for Hector. Utilizes that farm very well, and they just need to kind of leverage that now. And the issues here for Aurora, their team fight, it's there. The execution of it is just, it has to be very specific. They have to land the ice path. They need to get some good roll angles out for jabs.
Oh, Fiend's Gate committed. Divine Llama, he's going to come right through as well. No hesitation. They'll commit through the gate. Roshan still 12 seconds away from spawning. Stam Necromonicons giving plenty of vision on Aurora, but they do successfully take him out and back off. Thing is, now the smoke is out from Heroic. They want to rush for the fight, and Kingslayer, he's in a pretty awkward position here if they do make the jump in. They already found Jabs on the Pango. Jabs about to drop, looking like he might go down. Kingslayer though with the big Wukong's command. It could be a problem. K1 in trouble, dropping low with the 4-stuff away. He's fine. It's Jabs and Ollie to drop. Schofield will fall on the side of Heroic. That was a very nice Wukong's and Boundless Strike setup here from Kingslayer, but sadly not really making the difference Aurora wanted.
Not quite. They are still set for rush if they'd wanted here on Heroic after a bit of a reset. Respawns aren't too long from Aurora. They only really expended Wukongs plus Macropyre, which could make the next rush fight awkward, but you still have Rolling Thunder at the least here from Jabs on his respawn. So you can still try to contest. Still, Heroic get the D wards off, are starting to set up for the Roshan, and we'll get started. And this doesn't take too long with the damage output you have here on Hector. Aurora, get the scan out. They need to move fast. Again, they don't have two of their big tools, but it feels like a lot of this is going to be down on Jabs.
Aurora show up again. They do intervene. Smoke is out again from Heroic. They'll happily take another fight. Wrap around here from Schofield. Roshan's Roar is there, giving away the positioning, though. Oh, Aurora, they had no idea. Oh, they jumped in early thinking it was happening. Oh, that's a problem. There's no Rolling Thunder now for Jabs. Analog's going to jump in. I don't even know if Heroic are aware that the Rolling Thunder is on cooldown. I don't think they are. So Roshan barely roars, telling Aurora that Roshan was happening when it indeed wasn't. So now Rolling Thunder on cooldown for 50 seconds. Does give a pretty big opening for Heroic.
Yeah. And that was just very smart from Divide, dropping the Firestorm in. Burn damage gets Aurora out. And it forces Aurora again. Just constantly spamming it. Just trying to make it awkward.
They're keeping Roshan on edge as well. Like, he can keep doing this if he really wants. Just really play with the mind games with Aurora. Here we go, another smoke out. Heroic rushing forward towards Kingslayer, but he will run towards the north. Because the MK very, very hard to catch with this tree dance. Aurora still in position to contest Roshan, as Ollie now going to break the smoke of Schofield, but he's in a very awkward location, though. A nice lift back from Q is going to buy him a bit of space to get the hell out of there. The Schofield does jump in, but Ollie still barely alive. Finally goes down. Is now Kingslayer forced the BKB up and go for the fight. He'll pop the Wukong's command, but they all just run out of the ring. Nobody's in there. Meanwhile, Jabs forced the TP away with the Rolling Thunder, does barely make it out. But Roshan almost definitely going to go the way of Heroic. Aurora, they will not be able to contest.
No. Just unfortunate Ollie dies right before using Macropire. Feels like it's been such a big part of their damage output and trying to get these heroes low, getting that burn, getting that DPS onto Hector to melt Refraction and allow some burst plays to come in from Monkey King. Aegis does go the way of Heroic after a couple of false starts. And now you're at the peak point of your TA. Hector just going to look to clear out a free Tormentor by himself with a double melt. Not going to take too long here. Aurora, they've lost their lead. 5k behind now. Heroic does manage to bounce back, get in full form. And this just, it kind of bleeds down to just, again, how Heroic were playing. Aurora not able to find that key TA kill. Only the one kill when they were working onto the top lane. Beyond that, it's been a very free game for Hector. Your hold, it's not amazing up against something like the Puck. There's a lot of durability with all of the items up now on Devi and with the Shard on KJ. With a maxed out Warcry, your output on your Snapfire and your Monkey King are just kind of held back. Even your Pango as well, with his Swash and Shield Crash and his Rolling Thunder. A lot of that's held back. You're not finding the 100-0 quick enough on Aurora. I'm not sure how you actually rectify this. There's still a lot of room to grow here on Kingslayer. It has the Butterfly all set, going for the Scotty next. That is one step. Just having a way of dodging out the TA hits can help. Doesn't feel like it's quite enough. I know, like, right now, Hector's the problem, but again, as the game goes on, once Analog starts to get more damage in, the TA becomes an issue with his Octarine.
Attempt there from Kingslayer, not quite finding anyone as Analog just messing around with them. Oh, the slippery puck, it's a classic problem here for Aurora. Analog's got into a stage now where he's going to be very annoying on this puck. Extremely hard to catch. Fiend's Gate committal here from Devi Lama. Not going to amount to too much, but he's been playing a lot of mind games with that Fiend's Gate as well. Like, he'll just casually place it down, scare the living crap out of everyone, and then just, you know, do nothing with it.
He was trying to cut the tree. I think he saw where Kingslayer jumped, tried to cut the tree.
Oh, that's clever.
If they found a tree, they would have gone in straight away, got the Pit of Malice, get the chain stuns. It's very heads up from Devi. Love seeing that coming out from him. Heck, he's even going for the Ags. So now you've got just so much control coming out from the Underlord. Has a level 15 talent. Kingslayer is just poking tag. Also very mobile at the very least, so can bail out, but it's a lot more sensitive with a Monkey King. Will not push it too hard. And Heroic in a very strong position.
The fact that he's actually using Fiend's Gate to try and break trees of Kingslayer is pretty damn cool, right? Because Fiend's Gate, you don't really use that often anyway. You know, it's one of those abilities where it's like, you can kind of question the value of the actual spell. But, you know, Devi's found a very interesting way of using it. I like it.
And he has, and again, with the Ags, it kind of encourages that playstyle. Just think of it as a secondary pit. It's pits upon pits, all of them with their own separate trigger times. Again, you can get some insane holds off the back of that, especially with a slow siege onto the tier 2. Not going to take too long for Heroic. And Aurora,
Radiant's
again,
top
they've got the kill advantage, but the net worth never really swung heavily their way. If you take a look at the graphs, maybe at the peak of, looks to be a 5k lead at most for Aurora earlier on, just completely nullified. At this point, maybe you start to bank on like a slower game, a much slower game. Although analog, it's a fuck.
He's not dying. There's just no way. Like, this is the thing with this draft, right? Like, we kind of went over it during the drafting phase. Like, this draft is very hard to kill. Like, it is hard to kill anyone. And it's you're starting to see that now in this game one, I think, where, you know, Aurora, they've kind of hit a timing now against Heroic where they understand it is not going to be too easy as Divine Llama, he got the tree chop. He got it. The Fiend's Gate breaking the tree. The Kingslayer does still survive, just barely with the BKB TP out. But my goodness, I mean, you've got to be so careful because he's constantly looking for it.
Yeah, very aware on the map. If they manage to get Schofield in with a punch, I don't think you've gotten that escape route ready for yourself there on Kingslayer. Very fortunate that there were still some delays on TP. Again, Aurora, what they bank on now is just a slower game. You know, you hit the level 20 on Lorinov, you hit 25. That game state can change. The same issues still arise, and the Aurora build up on Devi is just going to mitigate all of this physical output. There's no real easy answer for any of that in this case at all. I would actually say you might want to consider giving Ollie some room to actually soak up some farm. Something like a Ag's Macropyre feels like your next solution. Just a little bit more slows, a lot more damage, pure damage. Doesn't care for the auras. It is one way to kind of try to work these fights to your way, with some consistent area control that lingers outside of Macropyre. Without the slow, it's just kind of silly. They can all just run out right now on Heroic, but at least with the Ags, with the slow going through debuff immunity, you are fairly happy and just holding high ground. But considering the game state, Ollie's not getting any priority at all, which, again, is fair. You will want your cores to be better equipped. I just don't see any straightforward solutions outside of the Macropyre Ags. And again, like level 25 on Lorinov.
There's still a bit of a group up here from Heroic. They are trying to find a way into this high ground. Skadi built up on Savage, but he hasn't left himself buyback gold. The Kingslayer has no buyback.
Radiant are scanning.
They have smoked up. They are looking for a fight here, Aurora. You do hit the level 20 spike on Lorinov to boot. The Violama going to slowly think about showing himself in the mid lane, and does. They do see the Unlord. They'll make the jump in immediately, trying to burst it down. He's a tanky boy, but he does die. A nice pick off here for Aurora. I mean, they commit quite a bit for it, but they do get it.
That they do. That is 3 ultimates down. Only the kisses left for Aurora in terms of trying to get something done there. Heroic probably not going to look to play too aggressive with Aegis down.
Oh, yeah, as you say that, John. Kingslayer's already in. K1's manning up here. Kingslayer trying to do the exact same, but the Dream Coil's going to lock him down. He's dead.
No buyback.
Yeah, that was the issue. He just bought Skadi.
Yeah.
You killed the vibe, but like he wasn't really the big problem anyway.
No.
And he bought back straight after he saw the death of Kingslayer. He's just like, yeah, okay, he's dead. Or rather, he's dying. Let me buy back and get in there.
Pretty much. Again, it was a big kill that cost them 3 ultimates. They only had kisses. To have that confidence to farm that far forward. And Kingslayer, that's going to cost them a fair bit. Mind you, again, high ground without Aegis can be a little bit risky, but what do you have to be scared of here for Hector? Not much.
Jump in from Analog, just chipping away at Ollie. K1 will just stand outside of that tier 3 tower range and just get into the hits. Takes down the tier 3 tower. Onto the top racks they'll go. Meanwhile, Lorinov trying to go into the puck. They actually found Analog to jump in. This time going to be punished here as Analog. They're taking some pod chops, but he was caught by the Gleipnir of Lorinov. KJ also caught out on the spin. Will try to run away from jabs, but is probably set to die. Or even a tier 4 token's been left behind. KJ can't get it. He says, no, I'm TPing away. Whose tier 4 token is that? I think it must be Heroics.
Yeah, it's theirs. Chris Courier gets it done. Rushes it right in. Does manage to pick it up and save the day. Devi Llama's Courier not too far behind. Very good punishment on Analog going so far forward. Does overextend past the trees, past the racks. Not respecting maybe the ice path and the timing of that. So, does buy some time here for Aurora. They only lose their range racks. They're only 4k behind. All of that gold is still on Hector. So you still have a massive issue in that TA. But you know what BKB is whittling down? Down to 7 seconds now for Hector. MKB is set to come out though. I'm curious what he's going to be tossing for that. Probably just get rid of the boots with a full Swift Blink up. Roshan, a full 2 minutes away. So there's time for Heroic to set up. Maybe hit this Ag's timing and Divide Llama onto the next Rosh. With a Pit of Malice on the Fiend's Gate. Can cause a couple of issues again in the middle of these team fights. Oh, Heroic do have to be a little bit cautious. The confidence is very well founded. But Aurora still has some play on hand if you do get completely isolated from the rest of the team there.
They are waiting for this Roshan here, Aurora. It's sadly still a minute and a half away, so they are going to have to wait around the area. And Heroic immediately going for a 5-man smoke through the mid lane. Lines being drawn towards the bottom side of the map, so they'd rather prep for the Roshan entry onto the Radiant side. And it seems like Aurora will have to do the exact same thing. Start to reposition themselves towards the bottom right corner. K1's going to show himself down at this bottom lane. Farms the creep wave, but it is bait. Heroic, they are ready to go whenever. Schofield's already broken his smoke here on Jabs, but he's lacking the vision as Jabs now going to jump himself with the Rolling Thunder. We'll find Schofield on the task, but the snowball is going to be this. Schofield going to make it very hard to catch him. Now the Wukong's command being committed here by Savage. They do at least catch the task. Coil committed to Boo. The task still alive. Schofield finally will go down. That is one. But that's your Wukong's committed. Roshan's up in about 45 seconds. So there is going to be a decent window where you won't have that available for the next fight. In fact, even kisses are down.
Yeah. And you don't even manage to bait out the BKBs on the side of Heroic. Hector just manages to blink away. No BKB popped on him. So he's secure for the next fight. The Ag's timing for Divide Llama is still lining up here. They are keeping that position close by the Roche pit. At the least, they still have Macropyre to play with as well. See how well they can work this advantage, the numbers advantage at least for Aurora.
Roshan 3 seconds away. Lorinov, he's going to show up. A few hits off, but nothing too much for Analog to deal with. He's got like a billion ways of kind of blocking off damage here with his draft. Roshan now officially getting started by K1. It's very hard to get into the Roshan pit when you've got all these traps around giving vision here for Heroic. Aurora, they're going to move in. Jabs, he'll be the one to try to move in on his own, who he has been silenced up immediately, and he might go down before the Rolling Thunder even comes out. Jabs trying to run. Glimmer Cape will buy him a little bit of time to get the ulti off. K1 could not quite finish him, but the Rolling Thunder, it's only going to be used to escape. As Roshan will once again be started by Heroic. Aurora have not backed off though. They want to fight. They can't afford to let this one go. Kingslayer, he's in with the Boundless Strike. They found K1 on the TA. The TA is still alive. K1 now being forced out of the Roshan pit. Kingslayer trying to get the Roshan done in time. Can he get it? Divide, he's in as well. The Aegis, it will go to Kingslayer. The Monkey King will be able to pick it up. Heroic will continue the fight. Oli will buy back. TPing towards the outpost as K1 trying to rush forward. Oli TPing in, might just die immediately. K1 looking for the dieback, but the ice path, it'll lock him down. Here comes Lorinov with the little shredder, bursting down K1, though he's still not getting, but eventually they will get him. They have got him. Almost a full team wipe here for Aurora. It's only Analog to survive. We shall see if they can make anything happen with this.
There are a lot of things that happened in that last fight that just all worked in the favor of Aurora. The initial jump in from Jabs forced out the BKB very early on from Hector, so the re-engage coming in from Kingslayer was very free. He did not have to worry about this TA trying to make a turnaround. and it just simplified everything. Early on, all of these traps coming out from Q, from the stolen traps of Hector, also gave a lot of vision out. And again, it's that early BKB usage from Hector that just made this hellish. Like, they managed to kite out without the BKB to worry about. Kingslayer is just very confident to play forward, having his own BKB coming off cooldown, which is why Aurora were holding that position anyhow. And this time, the layering of events for Heroic just didn't pan out. Heck, even the courier of Hector dying in the middle of that fight with the full MKB meant even if he did have his own BKB, whether or not his damage would come in consistently enough in the middle of that fight remains to be questioned. High ground just gets ripped to shreds with a little shredder here from Lorenoff. Have the banner as well to keep the creeps alive. They do manage to even out map control, 1 racks up on each side. And Aurora do manage to bounce back in. A very specific set of events happening there. But Hector getting a little bit jumpy with a BKB. Does get isolated away. And again, it's all about Hector. That's Heroic's plan. If he manages to have a great run, uncontested in the middle of the fight, it feels amazing. If he doesn't have that layer of protection, he can still be isolated and burst down. It's still a TA in that sense.
It absolutely is. So it's Heroic now losing a Rax. Net worth swinging back the other way. You're going to be feeling a little bit silly here if you are Heroic, kind of giving the game back the other way. But Aurora, of course, playing fantastic here, trying to force a comeback in this game 1. Looks like Aurora. Ooh, Analog. Could be in a spot of danger. He's going to try and jaunt away, force the Dream Call to ensure that Kingslayer could not keep up. He'd be able to get out, but Heroic now feeling like they're on the back foot, not really interested in any kind of fight. Of course, it is Aurora wanting to really get that fight going with the Aegis still up on Kingslayer for another 2 minutes. I wonder if Aurora feel like they can force high ground out of this.
I feel like they still can, but again, the key thing for them to kind of take these fights is try to force out, kind of fake out Hector somehow. Get the BKB pop preemptively, isolate the TA once that fades away, and kind of go from there. Try to ignore everything else. Don't fall for these softer targets. Don't go all in on just Divide Llama or Schofield or KJ. It has to be the TA or maybe even Analog. It's not a bad target to start on either. Try to go around with smoke. I mean, they still have some eyes here on Hector. They have a rough idea where this is.
Beansgate is down. They're going to try and move in. Kingslayer already moving in with the Wukong's command. Has found Divide Llama. Divide, he's right in the middle of that ring. There is no escape here from the Underlord. That'll be the only one they lose so far. But it could be worse because Q's got Fiend's Gate now. So they give a very interesting spell away, and he's got the axe as well. Okay, so he's got the Pit of Malice and the Fiend's Gate. That could be very problematic for Analog. If he gets caught, even K1, they're showing down on the creep wave bottom lane. Now you've got to be very wary.
Oh. He doesn't get the Pit of Malice.
Dire's middle tower.
Mid lane, K1. BKB off in time, but Kingslayer still chasing him down. Would desperately love a kill here, but could not find it. Kiss is flying in, but they are out of range, sadly. Close call. Yeah, I did notice that he didn't get the Pit of Malice, even though he does have the axe up.
Kind of sad. Oh, kickback.
Nice kickback. Kingslayer, no, he can just get right back the other way. The shard with the Boundless Strike will allow Kingslayer a nice way out. Kingslayer, understanding that was about to happen, does get out nice and easy as they're onto the mid racks now. Q, he'll still Pit of Malice instead, so just screw the Fiend's Gate. That's not going to work.
Oh.
Onto the TA, they'll go. They've got K1. K1 is gone. Buyback immediately. So will Schofield. Kingslayer still left behind, gets another Wukong's command off, and now moving back in, does take down KJ, but the kickback, if they do force Kingslayer out of the Wukong's command, KJ trying to get some damage off here along with Analog. Kingslayer dropping very, very low, should go down and does. They have got the +1 Monkey King. They'll move on to more now. A beautiful shard tip from Schofield. He'll catch out the Pango, they'll catch out the Rubik. Still, they are continuing to fight here. Q trying to survive a little bit longer. But he is going to die to the Walrus Punch of Schofield. buying a little bit more time for Jabs to try and escape, but Jabs will also drop. So a massive kind of turnaround fight here from Heroic. They do still lose a Range Rax and a T3 tower, but it's not really the worst case scenario.
No, not quite. It does cost them 3 buybacks inside of Heroic. The awkward thing is, Roshan is still a ways off. They're not going to be able to find a straightforward way of covering that. Macropire dropped early as well to clear out the creep wave from Ollie very heads up to prevent any sort of contention on the high ground. Buyback still available on Aurora if they really want to duel it out for this mid objective. There's still a banner out from Heroic Saito, but and no creeps, unfortunately. So backdoor will stay up. And all down to Ollie with that early Macropire. Does save the day. They get to pocket those buybacks, have the buyback advantage for a little bit longer. This is really just unfortunate for Heroic. Again, with Aegis still relatively fresh, can't rush something like Roshan or set up for it. They have to try for objectives off the back of very big buybacks being committed. It's just, again, I think Ollie blocks it off. Respawns aren't too far off. They'll find at least bot for their trouble.
They certainly will. Bottom racks to go down. Heroic, I'm sure we'll want more than that. The proper Dream Core here, but really only onto an illusion, so Lorenov baiting the Dream Call to be committed is now even K1 popping the BKB just to ensure himself the escape route. Heroic do not want to risk throwing this game back the other way again. They will successfully get out of it. One rack.
I'll have to say something here as well. Like Q a while ago with a Pit of Malice, we had a direct side-by-side comparison of that Arcane Accumulation up against Diviso and Pit of Malice. That AoE is kind of ridiculous. This bonus AoE is it's kind of wild. Now, that was a very big Pit of Malice. That does not feel fair. It feels like, you know, you versus the guy they tell you not to worry about. Yeah. Rubik is that guy. Doesn't feel, well, I mean, you kind of have to deal with it. Love this pickup out from Aurora. Kingslayer goes for the Nullifier. So you will just be able to take off some of these barriers that could cause some issues and just prevent any of those saves from being Big Ting. The Big Ting is analog with the Eults. Keeping that puck pinned down does simplify this for the side of Aurora. A longer Roche respawn, a minute 40 until it's back up. Aurora again setting up, trying to find some spots to play in. Mind you, we've already reached the spike of Lorenov, level 25, 100% of his Little Shredder attack. His attack damage is put into Little Shredder now. With the Daedalus, he does hit like a truck. Same thing goes for Heroic. You do have that Ag's Blessing up on Analog, so the Dream Coil can get some work in with a Parasma up on top. Again, a big thing for Heroic, you have to protect Hector as much as possible. This TA cannot fall. If it does, you expended your buyback, you're going to lose a lot of your output. They need to fight over this Roche. Aurora are set up nicely, but a long smoke flank here from Heroic could throw them off guard.
Run down towards the south. Heroic looking to shift towards the right side. A lot of traps placed here by Q, and I appreciate the emphasis Q have placed on just stealing these traps away from K1 just for the vision game that it does provide, as well as the silence. Jabs being caught, does not get the Rolling Thunder off yet. The Dream Coil will lock him down, but the silence makes it very hard as now they kick him away. Jabs might die before the fight even really starts, and he does. He is down, but he'll commit a buyback immediately. Looking to get back into the team fight. They've got to fight for this Roshan. Heroic, they will escape as soon as they see the buyback from Jabs, of course. Roshan, it is going to be up in 10 seconds. So time to reset. They'll get another 5-man smoke going, and it's going to be back towards the Roshan pit for Heroic. They cannot allow this to go. So many traps, though. It really does make it hard to get a surprise reveal off. Roshan now officially started by Kingslayer and Lorenov. They are both in the pit. Rory's going to be out. Shards will give a bit of vision. They found Analog, though. Analog! He's already gone, but he'll commit a buyback. He's back into the fight already, though. Jab's looking to lock him down, but does barely miss out. Meanwhile, Divine Lama with the Fiend's Gate has been caught out. He is down. Roshan still going. He'll buy back here on Divine. Meanwhile, Jabs has been caught on the Pangoli, though he's a bit of a tanky target. They'll still lock him down. K1 trying to finish off the kill, can't quite do it. Jabs, he'll be able to get away as it's back towards Roshan. Aurora. Roshan's still 1/3 of the HP away from dying. Heroic, they aren't backing off though. They cannot allow this to go for free. but they have retreated. They've given up on the Roshan attempt. Too many buybacks being committed, and sadly nothing coming out for Heroic.
No, they do have to go back and repair Aurora. Top lane just getting shoved heavily in. They will have to take their time in trying to get some map control back their way. But really heads up from Kingslayer. Buys out the refresh, refreshes up for the Wukongs, for the BKB before going into the Roshan. Allows him that aggressive play forward with his own protection covered. Rather interesting. Hector did, well, he does have his BKB back in front. Was kind of swapping around for a moment. Does not have enough item slots to sustain now on TA. That's going to be a persistent issue. Has to pop BKB, get the burst damage in afterwards, but there's a 6-second delay. It can be a little bit rough going back and forth from backpack into the active item slots here for Hector to kind of balance out his reach. Aurora, they are still 2 racks behind. Well, no, they did even out mid, so it is very equal in terms of map control at least. But, again, they've got the coverage for the buyback on Jabs. They've got the refresh on Kingslayer ticking back down. So double Wukongs, double BKB will be a very big possibility in the next fights. All it takes, it feels like, is just one engagement on either high ground for this game to go topsy-turvy for either side. Or definitely, again, in the driver's seat of the most recent set of events. Heck, they've got a Roche banner if they do want to force this high ground with a creep wave at some point. That will make it a little bit easier to go through that back door.
Noted plus 68% win probability here for Aurora so far, apparently. A very back and forth game, of course, between these two sides. We're approaching that hour mark here between these two teams. Closer and closer as Fiend's Gate, who they caught, it is going to be Savage, but no, they do not. Savage is fine. They're still trying to get that tree chop going, I do believe, but it is kind of the thing. Like, if you can chop the tree, your whole team can just go through the Fiend's Gate and just try to burst him down. I think is the idea. Is now Lauren has a Divine Rapier.
Whew.
My goodness.
He's done. He doesn't want this game to go any longer. The output on the Snapfire with that little shredder. With the Daedalus. Oh. It's going to be a little bit dangerous for Heroic to try to contest that. Even with the atrophy. Mind you, the Violama does have a Blade Mail. So it could also go backwards for Lornoff if he's not too careful. We'll have to watch.
Schofield trying to go for a D-Ward. Has been caught. And he is down. Though he does have buyback. Let's give shards over to Q, which could be a little bit awkward, but at least does have buyback ready to go to try and re-engage into the fight if necessary for this defense. It's so hard that the top lane has been forced in again. Like, Kingslayer does have to go back and address that, so it's going to be a little bit of time before they start the high ground push.
And it is. Doesn't take too long for him to go across the map, though, and he does have an amp damage rune if he does cross the rune spot in the river. Has a lot to play with. Another Blade Mail out from KJ. Again, this could be very spooky for Lornoff. He's not too careful, and if they're on point, if they've got a window to pop these Blade Mails in the middle of the fight, that Divine Rapier could just disappear. I'll have to see if they can get the timing here on Heroic when that little shredder's up, if they're not chain stunned.
Oh, big balance strike. Savage trying to move in. Almost finding a couple, but nobody down yet. Still the Ice Path locking down Analog. He's copying a fair bit of damage here from the Wukong's command, but he will be able to blink out. The Savage has the refresh orb available, so can always refresh and go again. And he will indeed. Another BKB up as well. Trying to catch K1, but narrowly missing out on the TA. Heroic, they're going to be so wary of Lorenov as well. Like, with that Divine Rapier up, he can really get through your team so quickly if you get the right angle. In they go. Jab's going to try a big boundless strike out from Savage, setting up onto Analog. Schofield, he does die back on the Tusk. That's one down onto the Violama. They'll try for K1 to boot, though K1, he gets the BKB in time. So Jabs, looking to escape, does make his way out of it. So does Savage. Tier 3 tower, about to drop in dust. But that's about it. They still have the Aegis for 13 seconds, but that's 13 seconds too short.
And they still have this banner, so there's constant pressure onto those racks. And we'll go for it.
Thing is, with the little shredder, with that bonus attack range you get, it's kind of hard not to get the racks. Now Jabs moving in, has found K1. TA locked down for a little bit, but can they get the damage output off in time? K1 locked between a rock and a hard place. The shards making it impossible to get away. K1 is down, but the buyback is out. In we go again here. Heroic, still trying. So desperate to protect that final lane of barracks. Ollie being stunned up by the Dream Core for a moment. Aurora trying to move on to the puck. Meanwhile, Divine Llama does go down on the Underlord, so he cannot buy back. Ollie will commit his own buyback on the Jakiro. Meanwhile, KJ caught outside the base. He's going to go down. Buyback committed from the Sven. The top racks is still standing. They have not picked it off yet. It's 3v5 though. They're relying on Lorinov to try and get rid of this this top racks, but they don't feel comfortable committing for the high ground here. Even 5 versus 3, they're gonna back out of it.
Lord.
This seems kind of, this is a bit too much, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm certainly on the same wavelength here, Mike. Oh, you've got the full Divine now as well for Hector himself. His burst play again is through the roof. It's just that he doesn't have the item slots. Gonna have to try to juggle around with BKB usage and Daedalus. Steve Lorinov can try to sneak this away, but not gonna fully commit. And a lot of risk right now for Aurora. And with them waiting out, you've got Schofield back in the game. You've got to worry about the Walrus kick and the punch interrupting you in the middle of all of this. We saw that heads-up awareness from Lorinov. Of course, the moment he saw Blade Mills turn on, just starts to walk away. As that is the big, pretty much the big counterplay you have here on Heroic. It will just Wukong's to clear out the racks. Oh, kick back.
Nice kickback. He's found Savage rather for Kingslayer, almost down. Dual Scepter will save him for now, but for how long? They get another Wind Waker away here. Kingslayer trying to get up, but Analog jumping right in, and they've got him. The Monkey King is down. He does have buyback available, and they have picked off the Megas. So all racks are down. Jabs still being chased here by Schofield. Does get caught by a Dream Call of Analog, but he will Wind Waker away, so the kickback will catch him. So Pango will drop. Gem on the deck. And Aurora, I mean, they'll get away with the Mega Creeps. That is the one big positive of all this. But there is an opening now for Heroic to try and move in with a Divine Rapier on K1. They're gonna try for something. Keep in mind, we are at the hour mark, so tier 5 items are online now.
Yeah. Oh, you have some nice ones for Lorinov. Force boots up. Can easily reposition in and out of these fights. Can make it a lot easier for him to bail out if things go southbound here for Aurora. Heroic do have a lot of room as well to start to find these tier 5s. You see a good saving tool with a Book of Shadow Seer Stone for Q. How is that fair? How is that fair?
Massive cast range here for Q. Good bit of fun. They are trying for that tier 3 mid tower, like maybe force a buyback out from Kingslayer or Jabs.
Look at range. That's Stormhammer. Why?
It's pretty ridiculous. Why not, John? I mean, it is a crazy amount of range for Q. Speed's Gate dropped here on the Rubik.
Stormhammer, look at that.
You can literally Stormhammer from the tier 4s.
What is this?
That is insanity.
What is?
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
That is just
they go,
not
K1.
right. Oh, Hector!
K1's been caught. He'll get the BKB off in time. K1, he'll force stuff away. Meanwhile, Kingslayer going for the fight against Schofield. The Schofield will snowball up and should be alright for now, but not for long. Schofield will drop. No buyback available on him. Meanwhile, Devi also caught out. Q will catch him, and that'll be Devi down now. Though he does have buyback.
He does. Tier 4s are under siege. Someone has to fix this. Hector, we'll get it done. He does bail out. He did mention bailout earlier, but if he was caught out there, the Divine going, no buyback, still on cooldown for 3 minutes. A very rough situation right now for Heroic. Aurora, they smell that blood in the water. They can clear this out. They just have to play it smart. They have to try to dance around Hector somehow. But if they can, the path onto the Ancient doesn't look too complicated now. Apex up for Kingslayer as well. There's a lot more output on this Monkey King. See if the smoke can do it for them.
Dire are
Lorinov going to move in slowly. That little shredder. It's just the threat of this Stormhammer, man. It's just so scary. Like
It's
this
so
slow
calm.
projectile just coming at you from a mile away. Like you're playing like some kind of old school retro game almost, just avoiding the Stormhammer every single time. It's like asteroids here against Q. Oh, he got Dream Coil. Alright, apparently he just stole Dream Coil on top, so that's going to be nice. Tier 4 towers are gone now. Analog in danger. Will barely be able to get away for now. However, K1 gets caught by Macro Volley.
No.
He's in a lot of danger.
Hector.
The stuns are out. Q from a mile away, locking him down. K1, though, still barely able to get away for now. The Japs making it very hard for the TA to get anything done. Meanwhile, Kingslayer, he dropped fairly low on the Monkey King. He's been stunned up. Can they kill off the King? It seems like they can. But Schofield is down a boot. No buyback.
Lorinov.
Divine Llama also down. Lorinov with an ultra kill with a Divine Rapier. On the deck now. K1 still fighting. Analog picks up the Divine. The K1's down now. It's Analog versus the world.
They call
They've
it.
called. What a messy game one between these two teams. But Aurora, they do pull off the victory here for game number 1. And for Heroic, I mean, it was an absolute slugfest duo, but Heroic, of course, will try to force a draw for their own standings here. As there's a big wraparound already from Aurora into that dire jungle with the smoke out from our Clock Primal. But there is also a smoke from Heroic, and they are hanging by that top side. What are Q and Jabs doing? They're very far north. They're going to hide in the tree line. So they're just hanging about in that in the forest here. Q and Jabs, not spotted yet. They've got some very deep vision as well, so it seems like they do want to force a level 1 team fight. This is going to be without Kingslayer, but perhaps they feel as though they just don't need it. The Ursa, that is.
You can be cheeky. The chase down potential, if you level Trample at 1
Oh, here we
here,
are.
which
Yeah,
you do.
they're in. They've got King Jungles. KJ's going to drop. First Blood. I mean, they're going to obviously try and give it to Jabs, and they will. Jabs will be able to pick it up. A nice First Blood secured already for Jabs on the Primal Beast. And he's going to go straight for the body block on the creep wave as well, just to make life even harder for the safe lane of Heroic. Of course, we are going to have a look at the mid lane first, though. Lorinov is going to be up against Analog on the Ember vs. Morphling matchup. You mentioned this already, but Ebb is the facet that Lorinov does go for. So what's the idea here? Like, he goes Ebb, and then what? Like, what do you do with the mid-morph?
You just play a standard morph. You scale from the mid. You expect the Ursa to have a bit of a fall off, and he's going to take maybe a little bit more time. You probably just go for typical phylactery, kind of try to nuke, maybe play a little bit more active here for Lorinov. Laning phase-wise, it is a lot easier for Analog. You're already seeing the effect of that double impact and just running in, getting a lot of damage off onto Lorinov. Already has to try to sustain through the first 2 levels. That's where it's roughest for the Morphling. Then it can be a little bit more playable. Although even some of your counter damage would say Waveform or Adaptive Strike, and it's just kind of blocked off by the Flame Guard anyhow. So you really don't have as much play for the Morph, but you are very farm focused. As long as you're not dying, you're finding some CS, you're going to be happy, but this is going to be just pretty good advantage for Analog very early on here.
Oh, that it absolutely will be. Well, the side lanes, of course, up at top lane, KJ and K1, they're going to be up against Jabs and Q on the Clockwork Primal. This should be a pretty okay lane, I'd say, for K1. I can't see too much pressure being applied here onto the CK. Mind you, I could probably say the exact same thing for Aurora. I imagine Jabs will have a pretty decent time.
Yep. Should just be a very stable farming lane. Again, Hector and KJ do get a big spike once they hit level 3, maybe 4 to be safer, with 2 levels in the Chaos Strike for Hector if you can find it. There is some turn potential. Double melee into the Chikiro can also make it awkward for you to find that offense here on the side of Aurora. That is something to hold him back. We are still seeing, again, the struggles on mid here for Lorinov. Constantly on low HP. It's just the nature of the matchup early on. Just does not feel great for the Morphling. We'll at least find a Water Rune while fully Agi morphed up. will be able to stay in. The one thing for Analog is mana management is important. Once he is out, there is play potential for Lornoff to run forward as well and use his right clicks with no block for that. So there is some way of having some presence there. And Morph still at the last lane, although up top.
Lane. Yeah, they are trying onto K1. Immediate jump in here from Q and Jabs. Once they have the cogs up on Q, but not quite enough damage to quite finish off K1. Bottom lane, you do have Divine Alarm on that offlane Snapfire, along with Schofield against Kingslayer, and of course Ollie on the Pos 5 Weaver. A bit of a fight over the Healing Lotus, but Schofield does manage to take it for himself. There's no problems here for the Rubik. The farm of Kingslayer is actually a little bit on the slower end right now. So it seems like the laning stage has been going pretty well for Heroic down in this offlane, but no, it's not too far. Like, Kingslayer will be able to easily catch up.
He will be. And it's just a little bit harder to try to get aggressive on the Ursa. It's not a stun lane. You've got Weaver 5, so you can't really look for kills. It's a lot more about poking, prodding, trying to take the attention away from Devi, away from Kingslayer, if you can. Every single time the little Shredder is up, Kingslayer just loses almost half of his HP. So it does cost you to play this a little bit more defensively. You're having a great old time on Devi, though. Like, maybe not in terms of CS, but again, he is making a little bit awkward for Kingslayer. And Ollie just isn't really able to do much outside of just trade blows with Schofield. So your Weaver 5 can't try to Sukuchi, do anything too crazy here. There's maybe room for a rotation out, but doesn't feel like you really have the levels to sustain that just yet. On Aurora's end, into maybe the 4th, and into the 6-minute rune perhaps, starts to feel a little bit better. This game state is still pretty favorable for Heroic. And your laning start for Hector is a lot better. As he hits 6, his farm pace will escalate once he has Phantasm up. He's got his level 3, so there's turn potential now for the CK as well. Though you already have 4 up on Jab, so he has the protection of the Uproar to keep that chase going. And for their credit, KG hasn't been really able to shove away these 2 melee heroes anyway. So you still have a lane to play with here for Aurora up top.
You absolutely do.
Radiant's bottom tower is under
Cogs out again. KJ's been caught. KJ should be going down here to the trample of Jabs, and eventually they will get him. It's a nice little combination, the Clockwork and the Primal Beast. Not much you can do as the Jakiro if you do get caught in those cogs, and well, of course with the expanded armature, it's much easier to land the cogs onto the Jakiro. So, well, poor old KJ, just not much you can do to survive that kind of Kingslayer. How did he tie Chop?
Just the lift back, scatter blast, little shredder. Constant poking and prodding was there. They do manage to clean up Hector up top while he's alone. And that is a worthwhile trade-off. Jabs popping off on this Primal Beast very early on. Which again, we talked about in our post-game analysis and pre-game analysis. Jabs and Lornoff tend to be the tempo setters of Aurora. You can give Savage a rough laning start, but eventually these two guys will buy the space necessary for Kingslayer to have that room to get that farm, to get his own timings up. You know, sure, you lose Kingslayer. Hector being killed is pretty big, more so on Jabs getting the level advantage, really widening up from the first blood, right? So he's almost about to hit 6. He'll have the threat with Pulverize to get some kills. They even get Rune Control out for Lornoff, finds himself a regen, which hurts Analog quite a fair bit. Every single time this Ember has no mana, Lornoff has been doing a good job of asserting his own lane pressure. In terms of net worth, Lornoff is actually taking a slight advantage at the moment. So the CS board, certainly a little bit better for Analog, but again, the level.
Kingslayer, he moved in, and he's going to die again. The Earth Shock was committed again right into Schofield, and he said thank you very much. The easiest lift of his life into the Scatter Blast of Divine Llama. So now Ollie trying to get away, will be just fine to do so, but... Oh, that's a secondary death for the Ursa. Kingslayer needing to be maybe a little bit more careful. His top lane, K1 now in trouble. K1 going to be able to fight back because the TPs are incoming, but here comes Lornoff to try and help out. And they've got the CK once again. It's Lornoff now trying to back off. Gets held down by the chains of Analog and does drop. A pretty damn good trade here for the side of Heroic, I'd argue.
Radiant are scanning.
And it is. Lornoff just a little bit too far forward. That committal under the tower for Hector to try to compensate for that death on Kingslayer does cost him more. And you lose this tempo you got with your Morphling. You get some very strong early activity out from Devi showing up there as well. They've already got the 6 up on the Snapfire, so they can try to make a play. It just chains into kisses and wipe someone out. Kingslayer has to be a bit careful here.
I mean, the Ursa very susceptible at the moment, prior to that level 6 mark. Jabs, bottom lane, trying to go onto Schofield, but the lift up is there from Schofield to not allow Jabs the closure, but he still gets there in the end. Nice little pulverize out, and that is going to be another kill the way of Aurora. Problem is now Jabs is going to be surrounded here by KJ and Divine Lava. Pops the uproar, but it won't matter. They'll land the Ice Path plus the kisses. In fact, Ollie's not out of the woods yet either. Divine Lava landing completely blind. And there was no sentries, no nothing. That was completely blind with the kisses.
No. Certainly so. Does manage to clean up. Yeah, it's just rough right now for Aurora. It all kind of boils down to that aggressive move from Kingslayer. Like, trying to play aggressive in this bot lane with a counter control on the side of Heroic. With the fact that, again, you have a support Weaver. He's not going to give you control follow-up for the Ursa to really try to leverage these Fury swipes. Just make it rough. Now Kingslayer doesn't really have a lane to play in. He could try to jungle. It's a ways off until his Battle Fury. He's still copying all these hits from Devi for whatever reason.
Oh, yeah, that's a lot of damage.
What is this?
There's helping coming as well. Q's going to try and force a fight, but Kingslayer is still the one being hunted as they do take down Divine Lava, but can get the Ursa out of there. Well, Analog won't actually die for the kill. So they do actually get away with the Divine Lama kill for now. This Jabs ends up picking off Analog. The Pulverize will land. Analog not expecting the rotation and even the hook shot. KJ will get caught out. Kingslayer to take a couple kills, and well, Analog, not only does he not make the decision to jump in for the kill onto Kingslayer, but it costs his own life anyway because he just stands there.
And some great baits out from Aurora. Using Kingslayer as that bait. He's been so easy to kill that, you know, you don't expect anything different. And they just fall right into the trap. Great response out from Jabs and Q. They do buy enough space to save. And they're also starting to give some space out. Lornoff has free room mid, rushing the BKB here to be more aggressive on the Morphling early on. You've got the levels up on Jabs, rushing his own BKB. Like, a really good understanding on Aurora. They want to play fast here. Just leverage their early levels.
Lornoff. Oh, Lornoff. Schofield with the tips out from Divine Lamas. Now Jabs in huge trouble. Jabs trying to move in and salvage, but he will get taken down by the kisses of Devi. So will Q. And Schofield getting tipped in the middle of all that. I mean, he has been fantastic on this Rubik already.
Yeah, he is. Just getting that nuke damage off onto Lornoff. Full Agi shifted at that moment. Just not a tanky hero when you are full all in on your Agi. Just trying to go for those nuke plays, trying to get that pressure onto the mid, is punished for it. And Heroic again. Leading to this back and forth game, number 1 in net worth is Devi. Off the back of these kills, has a Yules for himself to save. And just to sustain through the spell spam he is applying out. Smoke out from Aurora. And they've got that hook shot ready on Q.
Oh,
Devi.
He's a nice target if they can catch him. They will get the hook shot off with Q. He does have a Yule Scepter available, so there is a bit of time he can buy, but nobody's coming to help out. So Divine Lama will drop, and Aurora, they will take their chance and just take down that T1 mid tower immediately. The Schofield's going to rotate, but it's really only him.
Yep. Does get a very nice spell, though, with Strength Gain Shift. And the attribute shift on, and this Rubik will be really tanky. That is the one annoying thing when you are the Morphling, of course. Rubik doesn't care for his Agi, doesn't care for the armor too much, just wants the raw HP. Schofield has some opportunities here to just get, to be a bigger nuisance in the middle. They do get room to clear at the bot tier 1. Heroic do manage to open up a little bit more map space, but it's a very well-defended area. Some good forward wards here from the side of Aurora should prevent some rotations in. There is some forward wards from Heroic for them to try to play off of. But that does also show that Aurora's ready to fight into this one.
Radiant's middle tower.
Now moving in, chains are out. Lorenov did get caught with that, but he's going to be allowed to leave. It was only a level 1 chain, so the duration not too long. Into the mid tier 1 tower, Heroic will move. This will be forced out, but Aurora, they don't really seem like they're too interested in trying to force a fight. So chances are they are just going to let this one go. That tier 1 mid tower does indeed go down.
Radiant's middle tower has fallen.
Aurora, they're not, obviously not very bothered by this. They've already found the opposing mid tier 1 tower. They're still just allowing K1 that time to farm. He is still top of the net worth board as well on the CK, just about to pick up the Orchid. So things are still going very well. Like when you compare to, say, Kingslayer and Loronov's farm, K1 is still having a very, very delightful time.
And he is a little bit over, maybe around 800 gold advantage over Jabs, Lorinov, and Kingslayer. A nice little boost for the CK. Making great use of the Phantasm Illusion to just farm effectively as well, as we've seen Hector do time and time and again. You don't have a huge net worth advantage, mind you. Again, it's just around 800. Not the biggest deal. And Roche access is still open for the side of Aurora. With the Swarm on top, with the Fury swipes, this is not going to take too long. Did have forward vision here from Heroic. That should have spotted that movement in. They could try to contest, but they're just way too far off the map to even try to make that move in. So nice quick Roche. Maybe they find his pick off onto Jabs with a smoke though. That could compensate for it.
That certainly could. Player will indeed claim Roshan. Jabs still in a bit of danger, but they have run the wrong way. I say that, Jabs is running directly towards Heroic now, so it won't really matter too much as he's running right to the belly of the beast. And Jabs, he has Onslaught available, but he doesn't have the time. It's a nice little pickup from the side of Heroic. I dare say Aurora probably more than happy that they got the Roshan. So they won't mind the Jabs' life being taken away too much, I don't think.
Well, certainly not. Like, you want this safety net for Kingslayer to just farm, buy yourself more time. You've got Morphling plus Ursa as your mid and safe. They do need time to ramp up. Do see Lorinov going away from the BKB he queued up earlier, just into the Manta style. Only lacking the recipe now. It's just kind of the classic sort of Morphling build. Nothing too crazy coming out here from the side of Aurora. For the side of Heroic, though, they hit this key timing now on Hector. With the Orchid up, he can look for the burst plays onto anyone that presents themselves. Maybe outside of Ursa with an End Rage. Can kind of just delete anyone on the map.
Could get caught here. He's not too careful. I mean, they are going to catch Q first. Q kind of giving his own life away. Does give the info over to Kingslayer that probably should be a little bit wary around the bottom lane. So Heroic, the lines have been drawn out towards the mid lane. It seems like they did want to try and get towards the Radiant Triangle, but instead they continue to hang around bottom. Kingslayer now going to reveal himself. Will farm by the T2 tower, but they are going to move in on Heroic. The rage was popped though by Kingslayer, and of course with the Aegis still up, they aren't even going to bother trying. The top lane, it seems like, is where the action probably will be, as Schofield has already TP'd over to prep for the defense of this tier 1 tower. There's going to be a 3-man smoke from Heroic as they do run up the river to try and meet Aurora by the tier 1, but instead Aurora, they're going to meet them by the mid lane. Jabs, he'll pop his BKB and rush right towards the Violama with a perfect onslaught, landing on 2 targets. You've already lost KJ. Devi Lama in trouble. Analog barely able to get away, but Devi will fall. His Q will be able to secure the kill, and the chase is on for more. They want that Rubik, and they've got him, I think. Schofield should have no way out of this one. So 3 down for the price of nothing here for Aurora. A fantastic engagement, and nice heads-up play as well. Just reading the map movement, knowing the smoke was coming. They meet them in the river instead of that T1 tower, and certainly caught Heroic off by surprise.
That they did. Also aligned with his BKB timing on Jabs. So they've got the front line of the Primal Beast to play off of. Nothing to really dig through the debuffing you see this time around. Nothing like a kick or a punch to hold back that Primal Beast once he is set to go. They will manage to hold on to their top tier 1. Respawns are still short at this point. No full committal coming out. But, again, for the side of Aurora, it's mainly about hit and run. That's all you want to achieve off the back of this Aegis. You really just want to keep that build up. Hector is still farming up a Storm. You're not getting any net worth advantage really going your way fully on Aurora, but you are starting to hit some of those, again, initial spikes coming in here.
Huge, nice little block with the cogs on the Radiant Triangle. Heroic still trying to move in though. We'll start on those ancient stacks. Aurora, they still are around the area if they want to try and force another fight. It seems that they are not quite aware that the scan is now out. They know K1's around there somewhere, farming all that farm, but they will not intervene. Instead, they are going to smoke up and head through the mid lane, looking for KJ or Divai Llama. And Divai will break the smoke of Jabs, and Jabs immediately trying to go right after the Snapfire has caught him. The Divai Llama will go down, and so will KJ. They'll take the ancient stacks, but it does cost them 2 heroes.
2 supports, 2 kills going to the cores of Aurora as well. Kind of worthwhile for the side of Aurora, all things considered, as long as these cores find a kill. So
Kingslayer, he wants more. He wants more. Schofield trying to get away, but there's no chances now. K1 gonna force a fight, does move in onto Jabs, but Jabs is just so tanky, he's not gonna drop that easily. They do buy back on Divai Llama to try and force his fight their way, but Divai now needs his own way out. Kingslayer is fine, so is Jabs. Everyone from Aurora does make their way out. In fact, they might even re-engage. Chains out from Lorenov. Kingslayer's gonna jump in. He's still got 10 seconds of the Aegis. He wants to try and force a reset, but it seems like he will not get it. Instead, they will retreat, as the kiss is now coming in from Divai Llama, trying to catch the Ursa, but Kingslayer is going to be just fine, and so will the rest of Aurora.
very well timed for Aurora. Very nice to force out the buyback from Divai as well, slowing down that big spike that they're looking for in the Snapfire into the Gleipnir. Going to be offset without finding kill to cover that. And Aurora, again, they're just hitting these critical timings. You've got the BKB not too far off now for Kingslayer. You've already got that full manta on Lorenov going for his own BKB. They've got room to clear out the top tier one at last. They can start to set up on both Roche sites in the next 2 minutes when we'll see that timer back up. Heroic. It hasn't felt like they've been able to capitalize on this Orchid as much as I'd expect them to for Hector. He has been taking an active position on the map. He is working onto the Manta. He can try to, again, just kind of clump up, play with a Reality Rift. Burst down. Just hasn't felt like it panned out. I think the big issue for Heroic is maybe just this difference initiation style, right? Where you're relying on Analog coming in with chains and then playing off of Ice Pat, in comparison to Aurora just charging in with a BKB on jabs, getting a pulverize off, and having everyone collapse onto him. It's a little bit easier for Aurora to just achieve their objectives with his fast BKB on jabs, with this aggression he's willing to provide for the team so far.
Absolutely. The jabs have been absolutely fantastic here for his side, and it's made life very, very hard for Heroic. Like, you've still got this great farm on K1, but whether it transitions into the late game and means anything against this Ursa Morphling is going to be the big question. Because you are up against this, essentially this double carry lineup. It can be very, very intimidating for poor old CK to deal with. So K1 going to go back to the farming game, does now queue up the BKB, but it just feels like he needs so much more. At the very least, the BKB will be a good start. But Aurora certainly making life very, very challenging. You are getting to a stage very soon as well where Kingslayer is going to start to overtake in the net worth department, I think.
Jabs! He stole
Jabs?
it! He stole the Tormentor!
Oh, Jabs! He actually got the Tormentor. That's hilarious.
Oh, he snuck in with the Invis Rune. Waits for the perfect time. He doesn't mention... I was hoping he would get the Tormentor and the Wisdom Rune. Just forced to bail out very early on, but... just the free shard alone for Ollie? Sure, it's a support weaver. He only has level 1 Geminate to play off the Shikuchi. But that does allow some quicker farm for a support weaver. Now to try to scale up a little bit more as well. Maybe hope for Gleipnir for Ollie down the line. It's a pretty big boon. 6k lead on the back for Aurora. Roche respawn is going to be 2 minutes. Not the fastest Roshan. Does provide some time for Heroic to try to hit these item spikes as well. Going for the Eults on Analog for some protection. Again, the Gleipnir for Divai stalled out from his buyback earlier on, but does have some utility, at least with a Eults and Force Staff on hand. Still needs the additional hold, which is this time Heroic's issue. We talked about it in draft, but their combination for hold, their most reliable stun is Chaos Bolt, and maybe the chains if you're consistent here for Analog. But the fact that your hardest 100% stun is Chaos Bolt does not bode well. A very randomized stun, only holds 1. Whereas again, for Aurora, you got a bit of an interrupt with the Onslaught in. You have mini stuns with the Pulverize. Nothing to break through jabs and his debuff immunity. Very low committal overall from Aurora. Heroic, when they get those stuns, it does feel like they also need the kisses to flow in from Devi. Again, you're already stacking some BKBs up. Kingslayer already has his. And they're setting their eyes onto Roshan. Still, again, about 40 seconds away, but they're in a good position now for Aurora to keep building up on this lead.
Certainly are. Bottom lane. Roshan. It's going to be 30 seconds away. Seems like Heroic are prepping and so are Aurora. Both sides hanging by the Roshan pit already. Some nice wards being placed, of course, by Aurora first. Heroic now going to slowly move their way in. Sadly, there's no vision around the area here for Heroic. Schofield, he did get spotted out by jabs, but they don't want to make the jump in yet. Eventually the onslaught does come in, but the lift up is there from Schofield to ensure they cannot follow up. In goes Savage trying to go up to K1, though K1 does make his way out as now Analog. He is down. Q with a double kill. They even found Schofield. Lorinov, he's on a KJ now, looking for the Jakiro. King Jungles is gone. It's Heroic, they will lose 3 heroes. And of course they also lose a 4th being Roshan.
Man, that was so big. Again, the value of the Morphling when we saw that pickup, right? Into just the snap, the early picks, and now into the Ember, the chain setting up for that movement out from Savage to get the cleaves. Just the best fight you could ask for from Aurora. They could have found even more. Q managed to get the hookshot off, but there's a quick enough response from Divide to increase that gap. You can quite finish up. And you get Roshan on top, as you mentioned here. Secondary life, plus the banner for the side of Aurora. Probably not looking to use the banner anytime soon, but that will bank it for when the high ground does come out. They'll have that safety net now to keep the creeps alive. 7k lead coming out from Aurora. Heroic faltering a little bit. And it just doesn't feel like you have a strong way of starting these fights until maybe the Gleipnir and Devi simplifies that process a little bit more. Maybe if Analog has a safety net in the Yules, you can start to look for a little bit more. You do have that BKB up on Hector. It just feels like the follow through isn't neat enough from her to play off of the CK.
Ollie. Schofield and K1, they're going to move on to the Weaver. Ollie should just be dead. And K1 will be able to secure a kill here on the CK, but kind of sad how long it took to actually get that support Weaver kill. It's like, you can see these fights just not really working out well if you don't have the damage up or this Chaos Knight. And right now, it just does not feel like it at all. Worst part is he's still top of the net worth board here, K1. You know, it's more farm to be had, but against this Morph Ursa, it's getting harder and harder.
That it is. To be fair, Ollie did pop a Greater Healing Lotus, so that's why it's a little bit stalled out. He did invest heavily to try to stay alive, maybe hoping for the time lapse after the silence and chain stuns were removed. Still, you don't find really a big kill. At least you don't really expend much on the side of Heroic. Just a little bit of a freebie to go their way. And the heart for Hector is going to be a nice spike, but you do already have the Spirit Vessel up on Ollie, so the regen game not going to be as strong for Hector. Has to be pretty smart with the Manta and the BKB for the Dispels. You are, again, just scaling nicely on Aurora. Like, yes, Hector's farmed up, but like you mentioned, it's double cores, and both of these cores are getting equal farm. Lorinov and Kingslayer aren't that far apart in that word. They are lagging 2k behind Hector, but these are 2 cores that are 2k behind your CK, whereas Analog is lagging severely behind, 3k behind Lorinov. The Vailama, again, with the buyback earlier on, not amounting to much, and his slower game after the initial set of kills, has not managed to hit these item spikes you'd want a core Snapfire to hit. Just doesn't feel like he can contribute as much with how much tankier these heroes are now at 27 minutes in. And that instantaneous burst isn't there anymore for the Snap.
No, it certainly is not. It's not been a very good time for the Vailama at all as of late. So now the T2 top tower does go down. Lorinov able to secure that. Butterfly to come up very soon for the Morphling. Heroic trying to, or rather K1 trying to get the hard up now on the CK, getting there almost. Problem is Schofield mid lane is going to die. Jab's able to pick him off the Primal Beast very, very easily. So the Rubik now down.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
Aurora, I mean, they are grouping up mid. It seems as though they want to try for this tier 2 mid tower while the Aegis is still up on Kingslayer.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
And they should be able to get away with it because I don't think Heroic intend at all on trying to defend.
They can't really fight into it. That's really the big issue. 2 lives up on Kingslayer is just a little bit too much to work for. Just try to get that farm. Try to get some itemization. Analog now is forced to go for the Gleipnir for the team. Because again, Divine Llama, his timings are just a little bit slower on that. At least with some AoE hold, you might be able to cut off that aggression from Aurora just a little bit more to get yourself in a good position. Still. Oh! Q lands that hook.
Yeah, they certainly do. Analog will end up going down. A huge play here from Kingslayer and Q.
Dire's middle tower.
Will they capitalize with an objective? Probably not, but it's still a pretty big fight. A pretty big kill.
That is interesting. If Analog just maybe held back a second later, a half second later on the Sleight of Fist, he could have dodged. The hook flew in as the Sleight of Fist was coming back. So, just not. He got hit by the flare as well. Trying to get greedy in the last camp is punished. 20 to 12.
Laronov does rift in. He has morphed into K1. K1 actually dropping very, very quickly here. Goes into the Phantasm, pops the BKB, goes on a Jabs. Though Jabs does manage to walk his way out of there. Though K1 still just needs to continue running. Because this is not the fight he wanted. Gets stunned up again by Laronov and K1's gone. This is that stage where the morph can just run you down now. Like, as long as he gets the right morph target, which is K1 himself, it kind of makes him look easy.
And it does. Has the full butterfly on Laronov, has a lot of damage output on his hands. For Heroic, this kind of boils down to how their farm distribution's working out. There's no damage on Analog to deal with. Basically 3 tanky cores if you think about it. I mean, you have to take care of a Primal Beast with a lot of HP, a Morphling who can shift around, an Ursa who has a lot of damage resist with the Enrage. It's just way too much for a Soul CK to manage by himself unless you split them apart. And Aurora just not presenting any vulnerabilities in being split apart anyhow. We have to find some solutions. Again, they need these items to be up. They've got the Gleipnir on Analog, and that is a start. I just don't think the damage is enough. Like, maybe if Devi manages to bounce back in this game, you know, right into level 20, 25, gets his Gleipnir BKB, go for further itemization towards damage, things can start to maybe clear up a little bit more. It just feels like the timings are off. A minute 40 until next Roche. Q doing a great job of just scouting out by the Tormentor. They know where Heroic's playing. They've got a good angle now for the smoke here.
That die triangle is where they're headed, Aurora. If they can find K1 again, they'd be feeling very good about this big fight. Wrap around through the die triangle, K1. Gonna pop his Phantasm Illusions and send them down through the bottom lane. Rocket Flare's now being spanned up by Q, gonna give vision as K1 does get spotted, but they do go on to the Rubik instead first. K1, he'll get his BKB off and run away from Laronov, who has an amp damage rune, still chasing him down. They'll move back into the morph, and Laronov still just kind of tanking through all this, going back in onto the CK. K1 gets hooked up by Q, in huge danger, still trying to fight this one out. He'll be okay for now. It's Q in danger, and Q does drop. Nobody else falling apart from the Clockwork.
It's a very, very fragmented fight from Aurora. They were keeping that chase onto the Rubik. Like, Kingslayer and Ollie were chasing Schofield. He managed to steal Enrage. He managed to TP out. If they just focused their damage onto the same targets that Laronov was gunning down, that Q was looking at instead, you could have gotten away with a lot bigger kills. Still, Aurora maybe getting hyper-focused a little bit too much, not seeing the wider picture. Do miss out. And 1 pick off for Heroic. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it is a kill in a position where you're behind. That always feels good for Heroic. It allows a little bit more gold to flow in. We've got that full heart for Hector. has that durability, has a little bit more of that right-click damage in as well on that. The item spikes are still are still there for Aurora. Excuse me. They've got the Octarine up on Kingslayer. So more uptime on the Enrage with a Shard. Having that on the Earthshock as well, it's going to be pretty damn good for our Ursa here. There's that Gleipnir we've been looking for from the Vi. So double Gleipnir timing is up, even though it's pretty stalled out. That chain control is available for Heroic now.
I mean, it certainly is Heroic. Still fighting back, 11k behind, but they still got this CK that they can try to rely on to carry this game for them. Still top of the net worth board is K1, considering the circumstances, it is awfully impressive. Now the Bloodthorn out on K1 as they are going to go for the big smoker. Straight through the bottom lane they'll go. Oh, the Manta. K1 kind of made it obvious they're smoked up. I'm not sure if he's done that on purpose. But they know now, because he did Manta right underneath the Rocket Flare vision.
Dire are scanning.
I think it might have actually been on purpose, though, because it seems like they kind of want Aurora to come to them, into their own vision. They'll place the ward by the cliff. It definitely was on purpose by K1, but Aurora they're not falling for. But now they're by the vision of the Radiant, so this is where Aurora want to fight. They'll get their own vision down. Schofield, though, he's been caught out on the Rubik. Can they save him? It doesn't really feel like it right now, but Aurora still moving in. They're gone on a K1 now instead. Schofield still surviving a little bit longer. Finally will go down. That is one gone. Q being caught out now. Q will be okay with the Ghost Scepter. Hook shot in. He'll find himself the Llama on the Snap Fire, but he will drop. In goes Lorinov trying to burst down the Snap. The Llama, he will go down. That's 2 down for Heroic now. They are starting to fall like flies. Jab's been clipped in the middle of all this. He'll get a nice D-word off at the very least as King Jungles will drop. K1, TP cancelled off. He is dead. There is no chance of survival as they'll get the full team wipe for Aurora. And there's no real buybacks available apart from Analog, so this should be high ground.
Should be. There's the safer play of Roshan if they want that after the tier 2. A little bit silly that Reality Rift did cliff Jabs. That's a very low probability of getting that pull distance just right. Doesn't make a difference in the end. Very great patience out from Aurora. The ward droppage there from Schofield kind of revealing the smoke as it was about to pop. And Aurora very patient with the Manta reveal. Did just hold their position, play around that advantage, and chase nicely. Again, the same issues are still there for Heroic. The double Gleipnirs are providing some kiting potential. The Kingslayer is a little bit easier to just stop in his tracks. But again, the Octarine and Shard does make that a little bit less of an issue for Kingslayer overall. They have been very focused on killing off Schofield, but it's for a good reason. There's so many good spells for Schofield to steal. Like if he manages to get a good pulverize off, it can just ruin these fights. Still 18k lead for Aurora off the back of that engage, and into the Roche they go with the free Ags Blessing and the cheese. That is going to be a lot of trouble, especially if they just hand this Ags over to Kingslayer. Having that Enrage every single time he needs it, again, simplifies the game here for our Ursa. Heroic, I don't know where you fix these issues. It just feels like there's not enough damage coming out from your Ember or Snap to kind of cover Hector. They've got control with Gleipnir spam, but you can just see in the output of Lorinov, when he zips in with that Daedalus Butterfly, he is melting faces along with Kingslayer. Even Jabs does a reasonable amount of damage with his Shiva's guard up. It's just way too much. It's not sustainable. And all you have is Hector to try to focus down a single target out of those 3 at a time. It's not enough for the CK to do alone.
Well, at the very least, you know, they're still in this game, Jonathan. No Rax is being taken yet here by Aurora. They are up against an Aegis Cheese now, which does make things a little bit awkward, but again, still within this game. Just got to find some answers here to the draft of Aurora. They are starting to run out of answers, it almost feels like. It's only so much K1 can do on the CK to make this game work. It's like Kingslay's going to start pushing through the bottom lane. There is still a tier 2 outer tower standing, so perhaps ready to take care of that.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
You know, Aurora, I mean, they are quite the conservative style of team, so I highly doubt they'll go high ground off the back of this tier 2 tower. They'll probably just wait for a couple pickoffs before they even think about it.
Yeah. That is how Aurora likes to roll. And they've kind of course corrected for C being a little bit throwy, but it is a little bit more defensive. Eventually find that tier 2. Oh.
Jump in, Divine Llama, he's been caught by Kingslayer. He'll get the Yules off onto the Ursa, but Jabs will jump in right by the tier 3 tower. They've caught Schofield to boot. This could be a 2 for nothing special. They do take down Divine. Onto Schofield they'll go. Kingslayer though, he will get pulverized by Schofield, but he is gone. K1 can do nothing to help out here. In he goes, onto the Ursa. And range was there in time, however. Even the buyback from Divine Llama, not really amounting to much. There's now the chain out from Lorinov. Oh, Lorinov locking down a couple.
Hook.
Even the hook out from Q locking down K1, takes out the CK. No buyback available for him. And I'll tell you what, Lorinov has made this mid-morphing look very good.
Now he has. What was that we were saying about Aurora being a little bit more defensive, Mike? Just dive into tier 3s. Good old defensive. See, that's the difference from 23 and from Kingslayer. That's a big difference, Mike. This prodigy going crazy.
I like this guy. Don't ever talk to me about that cabbage guy again. I only know Kingslayer. Tier 4
I'd like
towers.
to see you. You should say that in the interview.
The Rubik has been caught. Schofield will go down. Tier 4 towers under siege. One is already gone. Onto the secondary tier 4 tower. Heroic, desperately trying to defend, but Kingslayer jumping in onto Schofield. Now onto Devi as well. Even the cogs to just force them into the base. Into the fountain. Don't come out. Stay there, boys.
Oh,
Now Divine Llama with the kisses out, but Schofield is going to die as Kingslayer. He wants to dive the fountain now, really to send a message. On a Divine Llama he'll go, but he has to back out. In fact, never mind, the game's over. Ancient is down, and Aurora, they do secure a 2-0 victory.